Java with Joe the podcast is brought to you by Kemba Credit Union, celebrating over 90 years of quality service to our membership. Sponsored in part by First Choice Coffee, the official coffee of Java with Joe, and Real Vision. And now your host, President and Chief Executive Officer of the Westchester Liberty Chamber Alliance, Joe Hinson.
Eric Harmon, we're publisher and president, Main Street United. Welcome.
Thank you.
Happy to have you here.
Thank you for the invite, Joe.
Yes. So you're a Cleveland native, and you've been in the business for over 20 years. And so I guess the first question here is, before you got started in the business, you were a graduate. People may not know this, of the United States Military Academy at West Point. Let's talk a little bit about that. What took you to decide to go into the Army? And obviously a graduate at West Point, very prestigious. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate giving me a softball question to start rather than am I a Browns fan or Bengals fan? Yeah, when I hear Cleveland, I know that's coming. But I am a fan of both, by the way, so I've enjoyed that. But I had chosen to go to the military academy because I first and foremost, was given the opportunity to play Notre Dame. Now, did I actually get to play Notre Dame? I didn't so because I realized that the Army was the place that really is a reason to go to West Point. But I really enjoyed my time at the academy, and going into the military was an experience that I would encourage anyone that's looking for an opportunity to learn new ways to lead, to experience all sorts of societies.
Sure.
But yeah, it was really gratifying.
Very good.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your service too.
Thank you.
And you talk about playing, so let's talk about this. A lot of people may not know this, but you were a collegiate rugby All-American.
Yep.
So obviously, rugby being a sport that maybe a lot of our viewers may not be familiar with, but not only to participate, but be an All-American. Obviously, you're very good at that. And do you continue to be a fan? Do you participate? What brought you to that? And obviously, being at the military academy too.
Yeah, I often tell people, in terms of where I ended up in sports, is that it's not where you start, but it's where you finish. And I actually went to West Point for football and really enjoyed football. That's how many athletes get to go to the academies, is that you're selected because of that. And I ended up having a challenge with football, not really being able to measure up to the athletes that were on this level team. Now, I did graduate, and my year was 97, and they finished in the top 25 in the country in that year. So I was up against really good athletes.
Sure.
So I found myself asking what's next at the academy, and as many that find these kind of sports like rugby, it's not the big thing compared to football or the other sports, but found my home, and did many others that are now my lifelong friends because we really enjoyed ourselves on the field. But rugby is a sport also that got you away from campus, and that's what the intent was, is to enjoy yourself as well. But I did find that I took the same aspects and my passion for football into rugby, and it really did well for me. It got us to travel, and I played on all sorts of other teams after that. But I do follow rugby, but no, I know there's teams locally, and I look at those that are in their 50s still playing. I commend them.
Yeah, sure.
But no, I don't think I could measure up now.
Well, you talked about finding your home. So you came to Cincinnati in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
And obviously you've been here since. So what brought you to Cincinnati?
Yeah, so, as luck would have it, I was interested to help my family's business grow, and that's in community-based media. It was out of Cleveland, and my choice was to look at it to say, okay, beyond Cleveland, what could that be? And so we went to various different cities. I myself found Cincinnati and really enjoyed it. And I talk to a lot of people in Cincinnati, if they don't feel like they're a welcoming town, far from it, they are. And comparatively, I found that the more conversations I had, the more people were interested to learn about what could we achieve in Cincinnati. So no strings attached to that time.
Sure.
And that's what made me move down to Cincinnati. So that was 20 years ago.
Yes, and so being from Cleveland, and you know this, obviously in the business you're in, one of the first questions people always ask is, what high school did you went to?
That's right.
And obviously you didn't go to high school here, and you've been able to make Cincinnati a home. So you've been able to make friends and build a solid community relationship here over a period of time. So you don't have to go to high school here to be able to have success here.
That is funny, and that is true. Of course, everyone talks about that in Cincinnati, is what school you went to and things like that. I've often spoke of if my children were to become publishers, that they could become a publisher from Cincinnati. But for me, coming to the choice of Cincinnati, growing ourselves into this area, I feel like there's the advantage that you get from coming from out of market, because when you're working with clients, it's really about what is their needs,
Sure.
right? So yes, I'm happy to share that my oldest son is going to St. Xavier High School now, and I'm super excited to hear of the things he's enjoying.
Good.
But I would actually more be interested to learn about what is their interest. And so if mine don't apply on the local level, then I'm happy to learn more about what they're doing. So
Sure.
yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So your business, Main Street United. Let's talk about that. I think it's relatively new. I don't know how many years you've had it, but I know that there's a new name for me. And so talk a little bit about that.
Well, so I appreciate it. And if you think of what is the inspiration for Main Street United, it has a lot to do with coming into Westchester, Liberty, and communities like this. So I won't forget, right, that plus 16, 17 years ago, I was driving around in a van with Joe looking at the different spots throughout Westchester, right? And coming to appreciate what is the connectivity of organizations like the Chamber has and the value that they present. But for us, we have our different brands, and one thing we could appreciate as well, if we're in Cincinnati, we're in Dayton, we're now in other markets, well, do they know us by Cincy? Do they know us by Dayton? What do they know us by? So Main Street, our first office and operations started on 12th and Main and over the Rhine in an incubator called Main Street Ventures.
Okay, sure.
So we parlayed off of that, recognizing that it has a special place with us. I actually spoke to the attorney that launched Main Street Ventures a couple weeks ago, and I told him, I said, I don't know if you know this, but the new umbrella brand is called Main Street United. And he chuckled, because I said, well, then we're probably good.
That's right.
We're fine. I just told the name.
Yeah.
So, but so now it enables us to connect that, our intent is to allow us to have that value to the communities that we're serving and let them know, hey, we're all in this to grow, and how can we enable us to do that together?
Absolutely. Well, what I'd like to do is go over the different magazines you've had, because you have a whole list of them, and I'm sure to our viewers, they may be familiar with some you may not. And I'd like to first start with the oldest one that I'm aware of that you started with here, and you talk about us riding around, the Cincy magazine.
Yeah. So what our intent for our readership is to cover the arts, the business, the culture of the tri-state, or the ABCs. And so it's enabled us to get involved on many different fronts between the business to business or the consumer content. Cincy is our oldest, and it's actually our original title was Cincy Business Magazine, which became Cincy after a certain time. But it's, for us, been the one that's carried, in terms of the greatest amount of marketing relationships. But we have our home office, in downtown, and so it's the one that is closest to what we think about on a daily basis.
Sure. Well, and then you decided that this growth corridor here between Cincinnati and Dayton. You didn't want to leave Dayton out, so then you've got Dayton Magazine.
Yeah, so as you put it, that there's this corridor that you called your shot well in front of many others that hadn't yet seen this, but for us, seeing work happening in Butler County, but going north, Dayton was the largest metropolitan market in the country that didn't have its own city title magazine. And we were looking to grow, but to not be from Cincinnati, it actually, I think, served us because to us, it was just a 45-minute drive.
Right.
And so one thing led to another. And I always tell folks in Dayton, which they might, I think, appreciate, is as I say, we made our mistakes in Cincinnati. We learned from them and then implemented them into Dayton. So,
sure.
Yeah, that's over 10 years old. We've really enjoyed our time with Dayton. It is a unique market. And for all those that talk about consolidation and things, I always point out that there is really great strengths to each of these communities. Dayton has such a vast understanding of their history and their appreciation of it. Absolutely. And it makes it so unique. And just like last weekend with the air show that was going on, that's truly a Dayton offering.
No doubt.
We're proud to be a part of it.
Absolutely. So you said, okay, we went north. Let's continue this area of our region. Let's go south. Northern Kentucky Magazine.
Yeah. So I know you knew of the historical in terms of the different leaders of the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce, but Steve Stevens, who was leading the chamber at that time 10 plus years ago, we came together starting to talk about what the Northern Kentucky community needed separate from what was Ohio-based.
Right.
And every story has two tales, and that's what we found is that it really did require a different representation. And every time we came over with Cincy to Northern Kentucky, it felt like we weren't hitting on all cylinders. So there then launched the partnership, which created Northern Kentucky Magazine. We do several different things outside the magazine in Northern Kentucky. The Best of Northern Kentucky event, for instance, is a winged air. It is a fun event. Mm-hmm. It's very impactful, and we invite as many small businesses as we can fit into whatever location. Sure. It's always a sellout. But those in Northern Kentucky are proud of what they've been able to accomplish on their own terms.
Sure. So look at, we've got Cincy, which basically has taken the kind of the middle area between the two markets to the north, Dayton, and obviously into Northern Kentucky, which obviously is a separate market into the Kentucky area. And now you say, well, let's look at the state of Ohio. Ohio Business Magazine.
Yeah, that is, I cannot take credit originally for Ohio Business Magazine, because at one point in time, my father, Harmon, had launched Ohio Business Magazine with the state of Ohio. And that had gone for a couple years, and then things didn't work out, but this is over 20-some years ago. My sense is that for as much promotion as there was to try to bring companies from outside of the state to come, which is a wonderful aspect, there was a lot of potential connectivity we could serve. Sure. With a business publication and digital platform that reached throughout the state. And having that connectivity of Northeast Ohio, having Southwest Ohio, and drawing together with the Central Ohio area, it's been a lot of fun. We do several events with Ohio business, and I think that's the one that I have so much more excitement for in the future of potential growth. Sure. Because there's a lot of people that may not yet know we're doing that. So.
Absolutely. Well, and for us, our chamber, we've been twice named best chamber in the state of Ohio through the viewership of votes throughout the state, which we're very proud of.
Yes, yeah, as you should be, because this is a statewide effort, the Best in Ohio Business, and the voting platform that we use enables us to touch so many different voters, and so you get tens of thousands of votes to vote on these various categories, Chamber of Commerce being connected to business, so much of a reason for that to be a category. And so across the state, the Chamber is being recognized as a leader. And so what I love about this is that it really takes people passionate to say, yes, I really want to vote for that organization to win. And so you've done it multiple times. So that's those outside of Westchester that's probably getting you the win.
Yes, well, we're very pleased and proud of that. And we take it, when you drive into our building, we have it, I don't know if you noticed that, we have it right on the top.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We have signs here. We use it as a part of our signature when we send emails out. So very proud of that, and so very appreciative. Another magazine, the Midwestern Traveler magazine.
Yeah. So this one we've just fired up over the last year, but we've had a connectivity to travel content between Cincinnati and Dayton for some time, and so we finally decided to pull the trigger on this as adding to the digital to a print platform. It's a quarterly magazine, and we really found that to find our path, we had to define what our audience was versus our content.
Sure.
And so we've saw that there's 8 markets that the shared connectivity is the Ohio River. So that's Pittsburgh, Huntington, West Virginia, Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, Lexington, Louisville, and Indianapolis. So those are the markets that we serve with Midwestern Traveler in terms of audience, but of course content is wherever they want to travel to. But it's super fun. I was just traveling the other day out of country and realizing, my gosh, I'm with so many people from the Midwest here that this might be a future story for a Midwestern Traveler. But we've enjoyed that a lot.
That's interesting. So the connectivity is the Ohio River.
Yeah. So we did a story on an organization called the Ohio River Way. And that is an organization that just started by Brewster Rhodes. And the shared connectivity of all these different communities, chambers of commerce, became something that was so successful to our audience. We had to ask ourselves, is this a new thing that we can connect the dots with?
Yeah, sure.
And media tends to be able to do that, right? Where things and leaders start something, what can we do to amplify that exposure? And so that just wound tight with our ability to then connect the dots with those 8 markets.
Absolutely.
So.
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah.
And I know you're excited about your newest publication, Emergent Defense Magazine.
Yeah. So that is probably too much for the time we have today to give you too much of the backstory, but it has to do with my time serving in the military. But the partner that I jumped in with is a fellow that did give me this idea, and he's a high school classmate of mine up in Cleveland, a West Point classmate of mine. We both served together in the military. I was in one Special Forces class with them. I'll give that kind of annotation because he then chose to continue his path in Special Operations, became a Green Beret. Came and we had a nice conversation a couple years back about what he saw was an opportunity to fill a gap of coverage in serving the organizations and entrepreneurs that are wanting to get involved with the defense ecosystem and work to, of course, serve our country in its defense. And we've built off this. The first print edition comes out in the fall, but it is a national platform, and there's a lot to learn for us, a lot of connection points we've yet to be made, but it is fun. And if you look at it from a local perspective, think of all the quality companies that are doing work right now for the defense of our country. And when you think about GE Aviation, one of the biggest prime contractors of them all, they're right here. And there's so much quality people that are going to work there every day. So this is going to give us a lot of opportunity for local coverage.
Very nice, very nice. So you're excited about this. You got someone you're working with that's high school buddy. I think that's bringing you back, and probably look back at that and say, can you believe that we're doing this? We never would have thought of something like this when we're back in high school.
Oh, not at all. And the things that you care about then versus now. But he really saw a lot in his service, and what we can all recognize now is that the country needs to diversify our resources to meet the challenge of the future. So we need more companies to get involved, more people that aren't yet thinking about, can my product that I'm currently doing serve the country in a different way? And so for us, we're encouraged by the feedback we're getting. We have a global editorial board, and some of the people we're talking to become a part of this global editorial board are the people that you see on CNN and all the different.
Nice.
Oh yeah, it
Very nice.
becomes that's the fun part of the job. And because of those, like my partner that's working with this, he's got such expertise in this lane. That's all to him. So we're running the media part of the operation, and so more to come on that. But
so this magazine's a national?
it is a national platform, so you'll see it on bookstores across the country. And our intent is to take one step forward at a time by the print and the digital assets, and then ask ourselves what's really the need for this community and what do they want. I myself have a stronger connection to the Midwest, and so my hope would be that we focus on providing values of exposure for all these quality companies that may be being overlooked right now, but are really active in defending our country.
Sure,
So,
very nice.
Yeah.
You talked about the diversification, and I want to go back to something you were mentioning before about the Northern Kentucky Magazine and the Taste of event, the Best of Northern Kentucky. You also do others associated with your magazines, Best of the North, Best of Dayton, and so you've kind of spread this around. Talk a little bit about that, because that puts you in the arena of doing events also.
Yeah, so a lot of people know us by the print magazine or what they see in their email or social media, but events are a super fun way to engage audiences and also enable the small businesses we work with to get in front of their audiences. And so Best of the North is just one of those partnerships that we have with the Chamber that I've so much enjoyed, because it was there as a need to be filled, and to give those businesses the opportunity on an annual basis to get in front of audiences has been the goal. And yeah, we've done it for I don't know how many years now, but it gets to that place where it takes a life of its own. But now that you can see is that this gives these small businesses equal playing field to some of these big brands, because of the recognition that their consumers have, their customers have for them. So it's really fun and impactful. Best of the North is one of those things that you can recognize too, is just that it wasn't and then became something, and now it's there to grow every year. So.
Yes. Well, as I listened to you talk about what you've done in your magazines, what you've done obviously with these events, the community aspect of what you do is so important. Obviously building that foundation, and it seems to me that with what you've done with these magazines, you've built a solid foundation of being able to connect with the community, which basically helps you sell the magazines, but also gives you that name recognition basically across our region.
Yeah, and the connectivity is the name of the game, that with all the technology that is here and coming, that is really needed to make our opportunity work, right? And that's relationship based and trust based. And so that can't be created overnight. And so what it's given me is a great appreciation of what chambers of commerce, what leaders in these community-based organizations are doing. Sometimes people think, I go to work, I live here, and I go and play sports and all those kinds of things in my communities, but to not know completely of all the things that are happening to make that community really a great place to live and work. So it's our opportunity that I think is, yes, focused within our business partnership, but I love to give exposure to these organizations because it is providing, maybe shedding a light on just so many good people that are doing great things.
Absolutely.
So.
And we talked about early in your career, obviously sports were a big part of what you do. You've been in business and obviously in ownership and being a publisher. Where do you see that your background in sports has been something that's been a benefit to you as far as helping you be successful in business?
Yeah, sports, at some point you come to an appreciation that there is always someone better than you. There's always someone working harder than you. And I look at the coaches that myself growing up instilled these major value sets that I have had many memories of looking back through high school into college of coaches that didn't have to choose to do certain things with us that they did.
Sure.
And I'm very appreciative. What I think of sports is just like anything else that gets you together with a group of people, that you're figuring out what is the common goal, and each has their strengths as a part of that team that you can exercise. But myself, I knew sports was something that I really wanted to achieve, and I think it's transferred well into business.
Sure.
At the end of the day, it depended on how good you are with whatever sport. One of the things I took back is maybe I could work harder than the person to my left and right. That's what I've taken to business, that I'm hoping that, not many, work harder than me. And that's, something that I could bring to the table.
Absolutely. You mentioned your father before, Lute, and obviously growing up in the family of both the publishing and media. So if you were going to talk with somebody today that wanted to get into this business, what recommendations, what thoughts would you give them to how to get started in the publishing and media business?
Yeah, no, I think it's a wonderful career. I think that there's choices that we make about what we want to see out of our, efforts, and media has been very gratifying because of the relationships formed, what kind of impact you can make upon the businesses you work with and your audiences that you serve. It has changed dramatically, and so it is what it is now will be very different than 5 years from now. A part of Main Street United's mission is also to take into account the leaders of the future within our organization, and what can we do to enable them to grow their businesses and content, marketing, et cetera. And it's something that is constantly on our mind to find that best path of partnership that enables these leaders of the future. Yes, we're happy for them to work in the media, but we would love for them to work with us. Sure. Because those skills and talents are something that could really thrust you in front of an audience, perhaps quicker than maybe other big companies might.
Absolutely. So what's the future look like for Eric Harmon and Main Street United?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'd love to have a crystal ball to tell me what it looks like in 5 or 10 years. I would say that where my hope is that this gives the opportunities for leaders to build out what they want to achieve with the media in the communities they serve. And so we can't be all things to everyone, nor can we be everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, my hope is the leaders that we have currently within our organization, they continue to grow and find opportunities with us. But I would rather go towards where the need takes us. And so if that be our current platforms or new platforms, to me, I've just enjoyed coming to work every day, as my hope is growth is pretty key to that.
Absolutely.
Piece. So.
This has been Eric Harmon, publisher and president of Main Street United. Eric, it's been a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and continued success.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Java with Joe has been brought to you by Kemba Credit Union, sponsored in part by First Choice Coffee and Real Vision. Thanks for listening.